Born in Wales, Joe Griffiths joined the Royal Northwest Mounted Police prior to going overseas with His Majesty's forces in 1915. After his discharge in the fall of 1920, he came to the university as its entire physical education department. During his tenure, Griffiths' personal coaching and guidance in swimming and track and field helped a number of teams and individual athletes garner national and international acclaim. Griffiths was a coach with the Canadian track and field team at the Olympics in 1932, 1936, and 1948. The University Archives has a typescript of a diary Griffiths maintained during the 1936 Berlin Games, photographs he took, and some memorabilia such as souvenir programs and postcards. This reading is taken from the diary. Along with commentary on the sporting events, the entries are a good example of the emotional impact German propaganda, in this instance through ceremony, could have on an observer. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Florence.
Joe Griffiths, July 24th. First thing, I went to the swimming pool to study the Japanese swimmers. They are the most serious, hard-working athletes I've ever seen. They get through an enormous amount of work. I got a lot of useful information from them and made note of their methods. I then visited the athletic stadium and grounds. Their layout is much the same as at Los Angeles, but on a much grander scale. The more I see of things, the more thankful I am that I have the privilege of being over here, the greatest spectacle in the history of the world. July 29th. At dinner time, a sensation was caused by the arrival of Max Schmeling. The athletes crowded around him and pretty near carried him off his feet. I took a photo of the crowd milling around him, and I hope I've got him. New teams are coming in every hour or so, and we all rush down to the gates to see who they are and watch the ceremony of the raising of the flag. August 1st. Today is the day of the opening of the games. We all got a good sleep last night, and everyone got up fresh and ready to go. The morning was spent in whitening shoes and primping up 200 buses we were all used to take the teams. Try to imagine what a procession that would be. After landing at the gates, we all lined up in our places, ready to march into the field. We could see that the stadium was filled to the brim already, and countless thousands lined up outside. They blew up a fanfare of trumpets, and Mr. Hitler walked into the field right through our ranks, on his way to the stadium. When he had taken his seat, we commenced the grand march into the stadium, each nation in different colors. As we passed by Mr. Hitler's stand, we gave a salute, and we wheeled around until we were facing him. Then began the ceremony of taking the Olympic oath, after which the thrilling moment arrived when the last bearer of the torch ran into the stadium and lit the Olympic torch. The sight was never to be forgotten. The people of Germany have more imagination than the people of America. And while the form of the ceremony is a set one, the little extra touches make it much more impressive. It was a thrilling afternoon. Mr. Hitler was in attendance, as usual. August 5th. Autograph hunters are a pest. We start to sign one, and before we are through, there will be a crowd of 50 around. It took me half an hour yesterday to get from the gates to a seat in the stadium. Today, I took my overcoat along and put it on when I got to the gate to hide my uniform. and I got through without being noticed. August 10th. This was one of the most interesting days yet. In the morning, I went to the village theater to see the television. The television. What, next? VCRs? We had 2 swimmers in the morning, competitions, and the rest of us watched them swim over the television. The pictures came over fairly clearly, and we were able to see the whole race, the crowd, and the officials. It is a wonderfully interesting thing. And while it is not near perfection yet, it is a remarkable thing, and it will revolutionize the radio industry. Did you want to make a comment on television? I'll just share 3 quick Olympic moments with you. 1952, Summer Olympics in Helsinki, Finland. A Saturday in July. A 17-year-old student from Nutana Collegiate uses an outdated single-barrel gun to score 97 of a possible 100 points in trap shooting. He beats a guy from Sweden almost twice his age by a single point. He wins the gold medal, the only gold medal won by Canada at the Games. He is named Canada's Athlete of the Year. George Generou, Saskatoon. The story George told me, this would have been 20, maybe 25 years ago, in his house. He is rooming with the Canadian basketball team. They finish not in the medals. George is taking home a gold medal souvenir. The Olympic team, we have no souvenirs. One of the members of the Canadian team says, George, I want a souvenir too. Look out on the street. There's Olympic flags. If we climb up that pole, I can get an Olympic flag. At night, the 2 of them, George pushes his friend up. He goes up the pole. He brings down a flag. George thinks, I want a flag too. Halfway up the pole, there's motion in the distance. It is an official. George slides down the pole. The basketball friend tells him later, he says, good thinking, George. Can you imagine the headline in the paper tomorrow? George Generou, Olympic gold medalist, arrested for stealing an Olympic flag. Another Olympic moment, 1984 Sarajevo, 1988 Calgary, 1992 Albertville, Winter Olympics. The coach of the Canadian Olympic hockey team is Dave King, Saskatoon. Before Dave King becomes the Olympic coach, he is the coach of the University of Saskatchewan Huskies. In 1981, the Huskies make the national final in Calgary. They're playing the Moncton Blue Eagles. The game is tied 2-2 in the last minute of the 3rd period. Moncton scores. Huskies lose 3-2. The next year, 1982, the national final, now in Moncton. Who is in the national final? Saskatchewan Huskies, coached by Dave King. The Moncton Blue Eagles again. The last minute of the 3rd period, The game is tied 2-2. Moncton scores the goal. They win 3-2. 1983 final. Saskatchewan Huskies are in the final. Again in Moncton. Moncton didn't make the final. Saskatchewan is playing Concordia. The game is tied 1-1 going into the third period. In the dressing room, Dave King gives a speech. Dave King is an athletic guy. He played Husky hockey. But that morning in Moncton, he was out for a run in the hills, and this is in the snow in Moncton. He tells the team, remember now, it's 1-1 heading into the third period. He gives them a speech. He says, the 3 hills I ran this morning are just like 3 periods of hockey. And you know what? The third hill was the easiest. 3 minutes into the third period, defenseman Doug Archibald scores for the Huskies. They lead 2-1. 2 minutes later, forward Kevin McNaught scores for the Huskies. They lead 3-1. On it goes. Huskies win 6-2. They win still their only national championship. The third period was the easiest. One more Olympic moment, 2000 Sydney, Australia. They have a ceremony there. Before the actual opening ceremonies, they gather the family, the friends of the Canadian athletes. They call it Canada Olympic House. So this is the day before the opening ceremonies of the Sydney Olympics. Gathered in Canada Olympic House is a woman named Maureen Nickel, her son Greg Nickel, her son Tim Nickel. Maureen's daughter, Greg and Tim's sister, Jackie, is a shortstop on the Canadian team. They're having a barbecue for the Canadian family. Maureen Nickel has a big hamburger. Man, she says, that was good. A member of the Australian delegation comes along and says, good evening. You're Canadian, yes? Yes. How was your hamburger? Oh, perfect. Do you want another one? Yes. She's halfway into her second hamburger, and the man comes along again. He says, oh, by the way, how do you like your kangaroo burger?